So, June, you have any questions? I know you always have some questions prepared.
Yeah, um yeah, I was kind of surprised with Bonnie presenting skin at the final session. I I
Mm.
I was thinking she's going to do a big integration of all the breathing, all the diaphragms. Maybe on class number 9, she gave us lots of information, and and then in class 10, it's mostly, I guess, about embodiment. Yeah, maybe it's kind of interesting, the skin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as far as I perceive it, skin is the integration of all these things that you were talking about. So, what is the organ which envelops whole body and puts all these parts that we talked about during the series together?
Yeah, it feels like it's all about the membranes. I guess skin, it's an external representation of the membranes, because all the diaphragms, they are membranes separating something from something.
Mm-hmm.
And they are membranes everywhere, separating each organ, each tissue. I just feel like I'm just wrapped in the membranes, membranes and membranes. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the feeling of the fractal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, like the skin is the big outside, and then there's the inner skin, and then there's the inner skin, and then all the way to the cell, and then all the way to the mitochondria. It's like you see those membranes keeps on,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then expanding out. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, true.
And the membranes is a separation, but then, but then, like across the membranes, like from the different layers, going through the layers, like a direct layer communication versus the communication like in the along the membranes. That makes me wonder about that communication. And like in deep meditation, there's no need for external breathing. And they're saying the breathing happening through the skin. It's really hard for me to understand that.
Mm.
Yeah, I was reading about the physiology, about the skin, talking about the pores and the channels.
Mm-hmm.
There's just lots of information. Biochemistry. I feel like, yeah, going into the molecular level. Yeah, maybe too much knowledge, not enough embodiment.
All right.
Mm.
Right, right. Well, that's a question for me. Like, does the knowledge support my embodiment, or is it actually taking me away from embodiment? Because it can go in all directions, I feel.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's the balance. it's the balance. I think we do need both. And yeah. And the knowledge is more about the mind, the thinking. And then the embodiment is more about the fluid, the feeling. And yeah, they support each other, but sometimes I guess the balance is not right.
Yeah. Yeah. But let's not forget the fact that we don't actually need any knowledge to experience our skin. So we can read about it, we can find more about it, but to actually feel it, we don't need to know anything about it. It's already there. It's been there since the beginning.
I do feel like sometimes I need a guide because it's a very complex system. I think Bonnie is providing a guide through the visualization
Mhm.
and yeah. But I feel like I need a guide. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, of course. Like you said in the beginning, it's hard to do it on your own. That's why somehow always the support from the outside it can be useful, whether it's our own research or groups like these or whatever comes. How did you, Kata? Did you watch the last one?
Yeah, I watched it yesterday, and well, for me as well, the skin approach she brought, it opened a lot, and but I also, yeah, I agree a lot with what you're saying. I also feel that the skin is also a good way to put everything together. And yeah, I was very impressed by this part where she was just, yeah, showing her hand. And yeah, she was moving there. And I, it's not so easy for me to connect with the movement of the skin. Also, because I guess I'm quite used to like perceive my skin when it's being touched. And sometimes I, on purpose, I like do the like this with the intention of like feeling my skin. And then when she was showing that, I was like, oh, it's like a whole, it's a new feeling for me to move from the skin. And also yeah, and I also really liked um, how I feel she also present like showed the skin as breathing. And I it's also kind of crazy because I have mentioned here that I'm also studying Buddhism. I'm studying meditation, and in my meditation practices they take us a lot to the skin. And like for example, today I was doing my meditation and I was like uh, going to the skin, but I was going in a very different way after yesterday. Well, I saw it yesterday, Bonnie's class. And then when I was, because in this meditation is part going to the breath and part going to the skin. And then I was just like a bit mixing them. And then I think it was also very interesting at some point that she was also saying this thing that I didn't really understand, but I got interested, like that, I don't know, like that thing, there's like as if some particles or something, they don't directly breathe oxygen, but that there is like a whole process before they get the oxygen, and that they are somehow like breathing on another way. I think that maybe I would have to watch again that part, or I don't know if any one of you like recalls something when I say this.
Doesn't ring a bell for me.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't remember that either. Is that about mitochondria that it can move into the place that when the breathing is not happening?
I also remember that,
Yeah.
and that was also very interesting. But it was not that. It was another. It was just a little sentence. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember that part.
Yeah, I guess what's the definition of breathing? It's kind of interesting now that it's really about the exchange of oxygen and CO2, right? It's really not about the mitochondria creating the ATP. Yeah, I'm just thinking why would a cell need oxygen other than because of mitochondria needs it? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And mitochondria is to produce ATP. If there is ATP, then there's really no need for oxygen. That's interesting.
I got an impression from Bonnie's last class that she really wanted to transmit this feeling of that breathing is more related to life that we can feel in different aspects. That it's not so much about, okay, we have the exchange of oxygen and CO2 and we have the production of ATP, but these are all processes. But what is, like, when she was exploring the skin and she asked, like, is this breathing? Like, are we talking about the same thing? Like, do you get it? Like, the skin is moving, it's alive, it's having some manifestation of life, and it's breathing. That's breathing. That's living. That's, condensing and expanding. It's not going into one direction. It's not infinitely expanding, and it's not infinitely condensing. It's just life. you know, and this life needs the atmosphere around us, and it needs the earth, and it needs the oxygen, and it needs this exchange with the nature around us, and but what is this question that she keeps posing? What is this life inside us?
Mm.
Like, who is perceiving all this? I mean, these are the big questions. Like, who is breathing? What is breathing inside of us at the moment? And yes, we breathe in oxygen and breathe out CO2. And yes, the mitochondria is producing energy, and our life is continuing. It's here, for a certain period of time. I guess in all of us. But are we alive equally?
Mm.
You know, is a person who is, in a coma on a respirator, breathing, the person is breathing, there is still life, there is still pulse. And for each of us, the processes are the same. The breathing is the same, the heart is beat is the same. But are we equally like alive, present, here, feeling this? I feel when she starts talking about it, she gets so lively because she somehow is trying to, you know what I mean? Wake us up. Like, come on, guys, do it. Feel it. We're alive. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I think you talked about exchange, that interaction that's happening between different layers separated by membranes
Yeah,
or managed, not managed, coordinated by the membranes. That's where the life is happening, because there's exchange, give and take, offer
yeah,
and receive. Yeah, because without that exchange, there's really no life.
yeah. And then this exchange, what does it become? Again, it's not mechanical. It, it's a communication in a way. It's touch. It's a touch of diversities and a communication between them. Um, because somehow all these membranes and all these layers, they are alive in themselves. So a part of
Mm.
the membrane is touching one layer, and the inner part of the membrane is touching another one. So there is separation, there is difference. But inside, then again, it's the same thing.
It for me it was also funny in this part where she was talking about, I think it was that part you said, Yun, that she was talking about the mitochondria and she was like, oh, I went there. Like, I don't know if you remember. And then I was like, okay, like I was like touched by realizing that actually consciousness can be so wide. And that she probably has been like developing some kind of consciousness that she can do that and mention it and talk about it. And
Yeah, I remember that too. Like when she brought that up, because there was the thinking about mitochondria. It's a bacteria from outside. So I was thinking, that's like a inhabit an alien consciousness. That was it's kind of like a weird feeling when I make that connection about mitochondria, the bacteria being engulfed by the bigger organism. Yeah, yeah. I think she was talking about more about the Earth used to be CO2, lots of CO2, and all that evolution. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how the time scale has changed so much by embody this body here, that mitochondria. And I think there was at one point she mentioned about like the lineage, the mitochondria only comes from the mother, right? So that's how you trace up your ancestors through the DNA of mitochondria. So it's interesting that mitochondrial DNA is different. Yeah, I don't know how that is different, but yeah, she did mention something to that effect.
Yeah, and what you were saying, Kata, like the ability to go to a certain place instantaneously, that's like a skill. There's like a skill, and I really enjoyed when, I mean, that's how I perceive it. The questions in the end, and then somebody asked something about um, how do I feel my mitochondria, something like that. I think somebody asked a similar question. And then Bonnie's response was she just started talking about the decades with how this work developed. And then she was like, okay, yeah. And then, I don't know, in the 70s, I discovered organs and then the bones and then this and then this and then this and then this. But what does this say us? It's like a lifetime of dedication of, studying self and developing these quite subtle sensors. Um, because in the beginning, maybe we don't feel anything, but then as this sensitivity and sensibility is becoming more and more, then it becomes very accessible. Like poof, you just go there. And I remember at the end of the SME training, it was like the last module, maybe. And I remember we were just like in a line standing, And this teacher Jens, he was coming from to each person, and he would be like this. He would touch you with the finger, and he would say, like, I don't know, bones, liver, I don't know, eyes. And you could really feel like in just a couple of seconds you would just shift, like bones, liver, eyes. You could feel it light up. um and it was also his touch, you know, and a different intention of his touch, and him touching from that system allowed the shift of consciousness to happen. um but that is the embodiment part, right? How much do we actually feel each other? um and I don't think we need to feel every single part of us. That would probably drive us insane. But
So,
yeah,
when you're in a class that with the teacher, with the other people in the same room, do you feel like you can feel more versus having a Zoom meeting? What's your
well,
feedback about that?
that is very individual, depending on a person. But I feel the more people are in a place together doing the same exploration, I feel this mind of the room um is very strong. So just by being there, you kind of immerse yourself in this field, and then these structures that are being explored are becoming more and more. They start activating more.
Mhm. Yeah, I think maybe I should sign up for an in-person training, maybe in Oregon. Now that Amy, she has moved over there, seems like a bunch of people moved over there.
Yeah, yeah. Why
Yeah,
not? It would definitely be a new experience for you, and it would deepen your feeling.
yeah, one of those days.
But it's not a guarantee. I know people also from my training, and they were there, but how the feeling is not there. The feeling is blocked.
Mm,
But I feel the blocking of the feeling is coming from the mind. There has to be a shutting down. There has to be receptivity to the system. Um, there has to be a level of where we just absorb, just feel what's happening inside of us and outside of us, and then nervous system registering, receiving these sensations. So it's a bottom up way.
mhm. Yeah, I meditate a lot too, and so I feel like I'm spending my meditation time sometimes absorbing the material that I've learned from Bonnie and trying to embody that picture in my body. Yeah, I often get confused what's being visualized and what's being really felt. So that's interesting.
Mhm.
exploration for me.
Could you, so what's what? I didn't understand that last thing. What's being visualized?
Yeah. Like Bonnie provided a picture, for example, like the nervous system. Like for example, the CSF. I really love the CSF circulation. Like I visualize that image, and then I I go to my body to go to, for example, the ventricles. The third ventricle is the most difficult for me to visualize. The first and second one is a little bit easier, and also the spinal cord, the central canal. So yeah, I go to those places and I wasn't sure sometimes whether I'm really just visualizing it in the body or actually feeling it in the body. I guess it's a process. Yeah, at least I have a map. And somebody was mentioning the map is not the territory, but yeah, having the map, maybe I can find territory a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and also this idea, like visualization is a very powerful tool that we can use.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, um, there is no need to perceive visualization as not as something not being real. So actually, when we visualize, we are creating, we are activating. That is that is like our superpower. So just in order to be able to visualize something, that is also a lot, and that is definitely informing us from the inside and um, awakening these structures.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think last class Bunny mentioned about the head. Like she was saying that instead of focusing to the front, imagine it expanding to both sides.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't quite get it, but I just thinking maybe it's the first and second ventricles she's talking about from the third ventricle opening. So I don't know. That's a interesting. Yeah, I still don't understand. Do you guys understand?
Oh,
At least, what's your feel on that? Just talk about
it's funny you say it, and for me that also was very important. Like I didn't either like really understand exactly what she was pointing out, but just I I feel that usually I had the feeling that my whole face should be like something like this, and I was like trying to feel that, and then she proposed like expanding here, and I feel it it opens something new for me.
it.
But I don't really remember. I think she said something about the cerebellum. She mentioned something. I'm not really good. I don't really know the different parts of the brain. But for me, it was really useful to feel space here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have been studying brain a lot, so it's and I just feel like I need a more detailed brain model. I have a few models. Just, but there's so much intricacy in the in the brain development, like the embryology of the ventricles. Oh, I love that piece that she talked about maybe last year. Yeah, yeah. So I go back to that and
Ventricles is the heart, no?
in the brain. Yeah,
Ah, there's also ventricles in the brain.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how I perceive this journey is like we're like the brain is developing and it's growing, and then there's this modern forebrain starts growing, and then like what happens if we perceive that it's growing linearly forward. I feel that it's putting me into this idea, like having too much focus on the outside, like my brain is reaching out, you know. But actually, then when I recognize that my brain is not reaching out, but that it's actually expanding to the sides, whoa, like something happens inside of me, like it takes me more back and it opens this lateral sides. It opens my ears as well. And
Mhm.
I can perceive much better. Like I'm no longer focused on, trying to get something, but I'm more in the, oh, I can breathe more. And these ears open up.
yeah. There's the rotation of the modern forebrain, like rotating around the insular. It's like a rotate, and then coming to the front is the temporal cortex. So it's kind of interesting that rotation.
Hmm. Yes, but there is this sliding back that you are describing even in your movement.
Yeah, because it's rotating like this
And
and
this
then coming forward.
back, it kind of roots us in the back body as well. And because if it's only going forward, we lose our, I feel we lose our ground. We are just like in this frontal focus, but this gliding back gives us the fullness of the brain. So it becomes a
Yeah,
spiral, it's like a wave rising. And
yeah. She like in the brain we have the brain stem. We have the hind brain, which is behind the brain stem. The full brain in front of the brain stem, and then at some point of time, there is the going forward and then coming back. So she's saying that the secondary, like pull the brain up, is at the hind brain, just above the hind brain, the fourth ventricle. So that's kind of interesting too, going forward and then coming back.
yeah, yeah. Let's do a little movement from the brain right now. And we can start by exploring the skull. I like touching and exploring the shape of the skull. Ah, yes, and then going more into the center of the skull, into the contents of the skull, and into the brain as an organ. So, can we feel how this content of the skull is, first of all, located inside the cavity? And how it is responding to weight. So it's a very concrete tissue which has weight, and it's housed inside the skull. And can we pour this weight of the brain, of the content, from one side to the other? So taking our skull and moving the container so that the contents on the inside can just pour from one side to the other. You know, imagine having a container filled with fluid or some sand, anything that has weight that can pour from one side to the other. And allowing this movement of the brain inside to find freedom within the container and to separate from the container. So, what are all the different combinations that we can do so that our brain changes its position in relation to the ground? So, we can pour the brain forward so that it's going towards our forehead, and then pour it to the other side, sideways. You know, different movement possibilities of our head and different relationships with earth. If we would to do a headstand, our brain would pour down towards the top of the head. Yes, and also adding in our awareness the continuation of the brain, the spinal cord. Grounding us all the way down. So following the pathway from the brain downwards, downwards, all the way down. And then also upwards, 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 upwards towards our brain. And then can we follow this spiral that we were talking about right now? So the brain folding a little bit to the front and then having this beautiful curve backwards. So even our skull has this. If we go up and then from our forehead, we can just glide with our hands all the way to the back. And then towards the ears. So we can help ourselves with the hands, following the pathway from the pelvis upwards to the forehead and then gliding backwards. And really try to open the ears and feel that the brain is not only in this up and down axis, but it also spreads to the sides. That it's three-dimensional, that it has up and down and front and back and can we feel this opening of our brain in the back and the fact that it has a movement, that it's growing backwards, and how embryologically it develops from this back body fluid support. Just as the superficial layer of our skin. So to this exploration of the brain and the nervous system, can we add the front layer of our skin, remembering that they come from the same origin? So there must be some relation, there must be something there. And as we gently touch our skin, just remember that we can apply different types of touch. So if we touch with our bone or if we touch with our muscle, it's a different kind of touch. But now we are exploring the skin and using the skin touch. So how can we touch only with the superficial skin layer? What kind of touch would that be? It's not the juicy muscle touch. It's not the pressurized bone touch. It's the touch of the skin touching and feeling itself. all these touch receptors receiving impulses, and then going into sensory nerves and traveling to our brain and spinal cord. And also our skin, we are touching it with our hands, and our clothes are touching it, and the surfaces around us are touching it, and the air is touching it. So all these different possibilities for communication, for touch, and then our sensory nerves receiving that and bringing these sensations, receiving it into the back of the spinal cord and the back of the brain. Gliding is one of the words which I associate with skin touch and skin movement. And our skin is elastic and it glides. It also has this under layer of fat, and fat glides. The connective tissue glides. And also our nervous system also has layers of myelin around the nerves, which is also layers of fat. So there is fat around our nerves, and there is fat around the brain, and all these layers of protective layers of different skins around the brain. The meninges, helping us to feel better our structures, finding support in these fatty layers, which insulate the skin and give warmth and insulate the nerves, making these very delicate systems through which we receive impulses, just to make them better insulated, more insulated, so that impulses can travel in a more stable system. And there is skin around our fingers and skin around our toes, and especially awakening the skin of the mouth. and the face. Skin around the eyes, skin around the mouth, around the ears, which are all different windows of perception. Again, directly connected with our brain. So when we awaken all that, when we awaken the senses, when we awaken the skin and the neural pathways of the senses to the brain, and we awaken the brain, and we awaken the spinal cord, how do we feel? How do we see? How do we perceive? How do we be? And those beautiful questions like, who are we? Who is inhabiting this body? Who is inhabiting this skin? It seems familiar, this skin. It's my skin. It has my fingerprints. It has my scars. My wrinkles. But can I find rest right now in my skin? Inhabit my skin and just allow everything that's underneath it to rest. Do I feel comfortable in my own skin, in my own being? And with that question, we can have a little chat.
Evan, have you ever seen a ventricle model, brain model before?
The model I haven't seen, no. I only seen
Oh,
photos.
you haven't seen? Yeah. So the blue is the are the ventricles.
Ah,
So the big one, they are the first and second ventricle on both sides, and then the middle. The middle is the third ventricle.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the fourth ventricle. So the two big blue, that's the thalamus.
Mm.
Yeah, you see in between the two thalamus, you have the third ventricle. I don't know if you can see.
Right. It's,
Yeah, it's
I mean, when we were talking about, you know, the alien mitochondria, for me, these structures of the ventricles really look like an alien spaceship
yeah, it
or
does look
some
like it.
aquatic, you know, stingray type being.
Yeah, I made this to be the spinal cord, the canal, the central canal. So
Yeah.
it's just what ray did you say?
A what?
Stingray?
Stingray.
Stingray? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of like that. And then this model is the brain model, and it's kind of interesting. You can see the opening to see the ventricle.
Mm-hmm.
So this is of course the modern forebrain. So I take it off, and then you'll see this is the thalamus and the modern forebrain. So the ventricle is this gap here.
Mm-hmm.
You see it's in here. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that. See and actually when I was um so I even made a like how the modern forebrain is rotating. I made like I don't know if you can
Pathway.
see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, you rotate back and then coming forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's amazing. I think this really I love this brain model because it actually you can separate it out and you can see the ventricle very clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when you actually are holding this model as a whole, you kind of you can feel its specific shape and how this shape moves uniquely through space. It has its own wave, and that can help us in the embodiment, just to see how are these structures like how are they moving through the space as a model, and how are they then moving inside of me when I initiate movement there. And then when we hold the model of the whole brain, it's a different kind of movement than when we hold the ventricle, the model of the ventricles, right? It's because it's a different structure, it's a different spaceship.
Hmm.
But the model can help us to navigate that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm
And
interested. Yeah, let me. What you wanted to say something?
yeah, I think the reason why I like models is because maybe my ability to visualize without the model is difficult.
Yeah,
So having something,
yeah. It helps a lot because it's three-dimensional and you can hold it in your hand. And
right, yeah. And this part is the insular piece. So that's in Barney's picture. She's talking about the modern forebrain is rotating around the insular.
mhm.
So yeah, it's makes it so much easier to understand.
So, what are your experiences from this meditation?
Yeah, I think I'm embodying this this three dimensionality like you talked about. yeah, opening up. Yeah, I really think that embryology really helps to understand why do we have this forward and then opening the back.
Mm. How are you, Kata?
I feel I am like discovering movement in my, now that you are saying how like the brain can fall or move inside the skull. So that's something new for me, and I'm very interested or yeah, for life.
Mm.
Yeah, I think Evan, you raised the question about who is experiencing it, and seeing all these interchanges between the different cells, membranes, organs, and really who is self. And you just feel like the self has to be a concept. Yeah. So it's yeah. I think tie into the Buddhism, because realizing no self, it's kind of difficult, right? But in this embodiment process, looking at all those complexities that's going on, there's no control. There's no control. Yeah, there's nobody that really control. Just processes keeps on changing, moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always comes back to your logo, ever moving, ever changing, ever flowing, ever growing. Yeah, it's just
Mm.
conditions, creating conditions, given the offer and receive in a continuous flow.
Right. Mm.
So when you're asking that question, Evan, what are you having in mind?
Well, when Bonnie asked the question in the class, and I was watching it today, and or when I'm asking it while I'm doing these embodiment, the only question that comes to me is consciousness. Like
Can you repeat that question again? How are you asking that question exactly? I know that you asked. Now I.
when I heard the question from Bonnie, and while I'm
Mhm,
in any kind of exploration where I'm feeling
mhm.
part of my body, and then I ask myself, but what is this? For me, it's just like a certain awareness. And my answer is I'm consciousness. I'm at this point a disembodied consciousness observing itself in the body.
Mhm.
Um, because I can feel the consciousness in the tissues, and I can feel that, like when I was looking at my hand, and it's my skin, it's my fingerprint, it's kind of it's me. In a way, it is me. But also this feeling that I'm consciousness, which is not limited to this, but it's somehow observing itself.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So yeah.
I don't feel, I don't like that sentence when I hear, and a lot of philosophy is based on that, and spiritual, we are not this body. I mean, yes and no, and we are, and we're not at the same time.
We are not just this body. I think
Exactly,
that's the yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But there is no denying of this body, and there is no denying of this life and this name that I have, and all the history. But also in these explorations, what comes to me, something that is from this um, form.
Yeah. In yoga, there is the concept of two energies: the energy of awareness and the energy of creation. So it feels like the awareness is looking at the creation. Yeah, and also that that has the duality. So they are actually one at some point of time. But it's interesting to be able to
Sure. Mm.
separate.
Wait, you were saying, sorry, my phone rang.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the two aspects in yoga, um, the 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 awareness energy and the creation energy, they are feels like the awareness looking at the creation, but then they are also kind of
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
Yeah, you cannot have one without the other. Without the creation, the awareness is not there either. So it's
Mm.
kind of interesting too. Yeah.
You want to end with something, Kata?
Hmm. I don't know. No. Um, no. Yeah, I've got a lot of like things with our exploration, but yeah, I've got like this thing, but maybe it's a big topic back, but something as if feeling this whole part like so in a matter way, it's a bit difficult because I have the feeling like that a lot of ideas are here. Like even or like a lot of fear also, like for example when we were doing the exploration, at some point I was like, maybe balance also. Like I was losing balance from here. And then like my whole expression was like fear and that is tension. And so I got a lot of curiosity also on how to, because I have the feeling that for me, I also apply all of this to movement and dancing. So then I was like, okay, how can I move from here and dance also with the face? In which ways am I doing it? Like, I guess that it's maybe also a bit like cultural or something. But it's also nice to like feel the weight of the face
Mhm.
and like if you're doing a movement, like to feel the weight of the movement.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But there is a lot of tension in the brain, partly because of thoughts. And so for me, it was very releasing and comfortable to actually just start feeling the brain as a tissue which has weight. And this brings even some kind of liberation from the thoughts. But I'm sure if you keep exploring it, it will become more and more comfortable. But again, it's a very delicate, so how to move it, but maybe in a smaller range,
Mhm.
because I think
Maybe
then we
feel,
can feel it with the micro movements. It starts releasing.
I was thinking maybe also anchor to the dragon tail.
Yes, of course. Yeah, yeah. That
Mm.
and it's a different again, or do how to do it on the ground. You know, just pouring the weight from one side to the other. And then if you have like a bag of sand, or those pillows filled with I don't know, grains or something, or beans or rice, and then you take this bag and it's heavy, so you can feel the heaviness, and you've connected with the heaviness of the brain, and then you just pour this bag on the side, and the grains are, and then the brain is pouring as well. Ah. Mm. But when we give it weight, then it's heavy, and then it's like I see how it can make us dizzy in a way, because it's like something heavy starts moving with this momentum.
Mm.
And then how do I let myself into that? It's kind of scary. Ew. Stay with yourself and love yourself, and thank you for today.